All righty. Well, welcome back to Sawyer Paddles and Oars Live. Once again, it is a beautiful Tuesday here in May. Cinco de Mayo to everyone. And my name is Zach. And today we're going to be speaking with Jeff Gilman, who is actually the founder and the main man in charge of the Gilman Grips that we have worked closely with. And this whole concept, Jeff will be able to tell you exactly when it started with him, but we literally met Jeff, I think it was over 3 years ago, maybe 4 years now, at a trade show. And just through time of actually I think I saw him at a trade show in the summertime. And then the following fall, he actually made his way out to the Sawyer factory, and we got things moving. And now we are actually forming a real good partnership. So Jeff, I'll let you do an intro yourself there, and then we'll kind of take her from there.
Well, thanks for having me, Zach. I'm really excited to be working with you guys to have Gilman Grips available on any of your composite oars. As you said, I was in development for a few years on this and originally showed you some prototypes just to kind of test the waters and see what people's interest level would be on the manufacturer side, like yourself. And of course, like many of your products that are so innovative, you said, hey, that might be something fun, and come on back when it's a real part. So we then went into development and had the finished product made after years of prototyping, and we've been working together for about a year and a half now, and selling lots of grips.
Yep, absolutely. And so we do have some folks that are monitoring this live feed, and we definitely encourage everybody to please, if you have some detailed questions for Jeff or about the Gilman Grip, fire them off to us, and we will make sure that we address every one of those as we go through here. And we're just going to kind of take all of you through the journey that we've kind of come through with our grips, and why we feel that this is a nice upgrade in all of our composites. And we'll start it off with a little bit of an intro video from Jeff. So we'll play that and then kind of jump into a discussion and take her from there. Just going to key that up.
Gilman Grips can connect you to the water in a whole new way. Whether you row a drift boat or a dory, raft or cataract, Gilman Grips oar handles were designed with all river enthusiasts in mind.
Fully compatible with most composite oars, our patented ergonomic design provides intuitive feathering with precise control. It sets the oarsman up for a perfect stroke every time. Compatible with, but eliminating the need for oar rights or clip-in pins.
Excellent. So basically the whole concept, just correct me if I leave anything out, but we're going to dive into the whole molded ergonomic grip, and just to kind of give you our thoughts of kind of what it is taking the place of and helping people kind of grasp with, is really the person that, one, feels like they need to have oar rights. So there's a lot of folks out there that run an oar right, and so like we sell an oar right on a lot of our oars, where even our higher end oars, they'll go with a full size oar right, and that's also that they know what the angle of the blade is, so that they know for sure that they're gonna get that positive stroke every time. And then there are folks that basically, that's just our standard round grip. And there are folks that don't like the size of that. So there are folks that actually ask for our oar grips just to be completely just bare wood, and that just makes it quite a bit smaller, especially folks with a smaller hand. They like that little smaller grip. And then people have we sell a kit that basically ovalizes that grip, and basically gives it that kind of cruise control to where where that spot is. So your grip pretty much kind of does all that for you, and they are completely molded, and it's kind of like a posi drive grab to your oar. What would you like to add to that?
That's right, Zach. We spent a lot of time in design and development on this, and let me give you a little bit of background about myself, just so that people understand. I came out of 30 years of big water kayaking, Locksaw, Selway at 32,000 CFS, the Grand Canyon, creeks and rivers all around the world, and I ended up having a rotator cuff issue that made me slow down with the kayaking. So I switched over to rafting because I wasn't ready to give up the lifestyle. And when I did, I found I didn't have the same connection that I had with my good bend shaft kayak paddle. With a kayak paddle, you always know the orientation. If you have to think about
absolutely.
the orientation,
Absolutely.
you're already upside down, maybe in trouble. So when I switched to rafting, I hated oar rights because I couldn't feather. But when I feathered, I found I didn't always know where my orientation was, because in big water, sometimes it would slip. So I saw a need for a product here that nobody was filling. And so I set out to create a product that was safer and more comfortable with better power transfer. So through that process, we came up with this design, which we felt like was the most ergonomic, powerful design and the safest design that we could come up with. So there's a few really interesting features on the grip. And on the end of the grip, we have a feature we call the G-lock. And what the G-lock does is it prevents your hand from slipping off the end of the grip. What we found was in whitewater, a lot of times you get hit by a big lateral and it would knock you sideways out of the raft. And you couldn't quite hang on to the oar because it's so slick and tapered. So the G-lock prevents that. And then we have a large surface down here we call the palm drive, and it creates a larger surface area for pushing. And this is the feature that really eliminates the need for an oar right or replaces an oar right, because it gives you positive control of where the oar orientation is in the water. And the last feature, Zach, is what we call the offset. And we've changed the angle that the oar would be at to the angle that your hand is at, to bring your wrist back into a more neutral position through the power portion of the stroke. So what we've done is we've created a safer grip with more comfort and more power.
Right. And and a couple of those features that you pointed out there, of course, like, coming from the kayaking background, there's been ovalization in paddles. Like a lot of our high-end paddles have ovalization for that exact reason, right? Ovalization in a paddle shaft basically makes it so you know exactly where the blade orientation is. That can also give you a little bit more of a comfortable grip in like a stand-up paddleboard paddle or an OC1 paddle. And so like ovalization has definitely been something that has been brought across the spectrum in paddles. But, we actually, many years ago, actually had an oval grip. And even that, it just wasn't ever really exactly how we wanted it. And we finally just kind of canned that project. But part of the issue and some of the things that we discussed is that when you mount these in your shaft, that if you don't do it exactly right, you're stuck with the orientation to be incorrect the rest of the time. And so that was why it was very helpful to have you spend that time with Israel, our shop foreman, and really kind of get them tuned into how to mount your grips. And now that we've done hundreds of them, it makes it so those guys they really kind of become secondhand at it, and they really kind of have that system down. And so maybe talk a little bit about the importance of that for the people out there that we get calls all the time where they've bought a high-end pair of oars from us, then after the fact, they're like, oh, I think I want to try these Gilman grips. So then they're calling us up, or they're calling you up. They're like, hey, yeah, I just want to add those on there. Can I just do that? And it's like, yes, but, and so kind of talk through some of the details that people need to be aware of when they are installing their own grips. Because obviously, I mean, you want to get everybody on these grips that has composite oars, and it's a great addition to a composite oar, but it's best to be done from the beginning, not trying to retrofit. But kind of talk through some of the things that you've gotten from customers. I know I've sent some info. I've sent people to you because just wanting them to have you explain it to them. But talk through that a little bit, because that's very key to the whole grip working properly. And so installation is very, very paramount, so that it's so you actually have that posi drive.
Sure, that's a great question, Zach. Just like with an oarright, if you could imagine your oarright was mounted at, say, 4 degrees off, it would work great for one stroke, say a push stroke, but when you went to pull, your paddle would dive and it would not perform as expected, and you may or may not even understand why or what's going on. The same thing is true with my grip. Unlike a symmetrical grip where it can go anywhere in any direction, my grip needs to be clocked or indexed and oriented to the blade in a precise location. And it was designed to be ergonomic, most ergonomic in that one location. So we have 4 little dots here on the collar of the Gilman grip, and the second dot from the TP notch here is supposed to line up with the top of the blade. And we've got instructions how to do that for people that want to retrofit it up on our website. And if you're a little bit handy and you have some tools, you can definitely do it, but you got to follow the directions. If you're like me or most guys and you think you're smart enough to do it, you probably are, but chances are really good that you're going to mount it in the wrong location. So the easiest way, the smartest way to do that is to buy that oar from Sawyer, have them install it at the factory. It's available on their Smoker Bandit, any of their composite oars you'll see on their website. It's available as an upgrade option. They even give you a discount for not using their oar handle. So I would strongly encourage anybody considering new oars to just go that route. You can also ask your local shop to do an order from Sawyer, and they can bring them in the color and the size that you want. It's surprising how much play there is in some oars. If your oar has a button on the blade that's not a tight set button, sometimes
there's some give there.
Yeah, sometimes we've seen there's 3 or 4 degrees of play in there. Now that may not sound like much, but when you put the performance of the Gilman Grip oar handle on there, that 4 degrees, you feel every degree of that 4 degrees. In our installation process, we have a way to deal with that for non-tight lock oars. But Sawyer's already solved that problem for you with the tight set button.
Yeah, the tight set makes a big difference, because part of the disadvantage of a composite oar is that you have that added junction in there, so you're going to have that dissipation of energy, and so the tight set does get it as about as solid as you can, and you get that positive push on the drive. But when I go back to kind of when we used to have oval grips, part of the things that made it so hard to sell people on that is because we flat out refused to mount the grip. Like basically we would sell the grip, but we wanted people to determine, where exactly do you want that oval? And, we didn't want to basically mount it to where we thought the oval needed to be, and then somebody gets it, because once you set that screw, it's done. And so really, once again, just kind of your process of going through that with Israel and really kind of making sure that they knew exactly what needed to be done on the grips. You know, that install makes a big difference for sure. And yeah, you know, I mean, I think that you know, we have a few opportunities to kind of work on, and maybe talk a little bit about just kind of what we have worked out with the SST oar, which is kind of our smaller stock oar. A lot of these small little boats out there, that's really big right now. It's where it's, you know, a boat that is just something that one person can take it off the pickup, drag it over to the water's edge, put it in, and they're ready to go. You know, they're kind of on their independent, you know, one person's all it takes, and they can take a mountain bike to run their shuttle. They don't need anybody else to help them get out onto the water. And so this day and age that we're in right now, you know, that's maybe becoming a little bit more important, because they're like, I want to get out to the water by myself. I got all this stuff in the truck. My work's done, and I'm heading to the river. I know where I can get access. So just kind of what we brainstormed about, and maybe talk about just a little bit about, you know, how it changes the oar itself, and then just kind of how easy it is to go ahead and retrofit your grip onto that SST.
Yeah, we've been working with Sawyer to make Gilman grips available on more oars, and the SST is something that a customer in Ireland, of all places, wanted a set of grips, and he wanted to put it on his SST oars. And so we worked through the process with this customer to get it. And there's actually some photos on my website of a pair of SST oars mounted up with Gilman grips. And what this gentleman did, because he had a very narrow boat, there it is, a Smith Fly boat. That boat is just narrow enough for one fisherman to stand in there. And the oars, because of the frame geometry, are a little bit long in this situation. So he actually wanted a counterbalance setup here, which is different than what most people want that are running the SST oar. And what we used was, our counterbalance is an internal all thread that goes into the hole here, and it extends a few inches out. And we were able to use that steel slug to go inside the ID of the SST oar. And then over top of it, we used this heat shrink tube that's got a cool pattern on it. This is actually from a snooker cue for playing pool. And that finishes this part of the grip that you see here, because normally this part of the grip would be on the inside in a large diameter shaft. So that finished the transition down to the SST size. Now this does change the length of that oar a little bit, because we're adding this.
Right. But that makes it, you know, that makes it something that the do-it-yourselfer can easily kind of go, all right, well, you know, I'm going to convert to these grips. They can't really go back. You know, if they go back to not using your grips, then their oar is going to be too short. But basically, it does make it very, very compatible in the fact that, you know, the do-it-yourselfer, because now with the SST is basically, we do a two-piece SST, so we have an inner ferrule that matches the inside, the ID of the main shaft and the OD of the ferrule fit just perfect. So you can literally just take and measure off this much of the top of your SST shaft, get a smooth cut, and then slide that on there. I guess it would measure off this much. So if you want to get exact, you measure off your 6 inches that you're going to extend that handle, and chop off that much. And, you know, so easily be able to, one, get it retrofitted to put your grips on, but two, actually keep the rope wrap zone in the right place, right? Because an SST oar comes anywhere from a 5.5 footer used on like some of the Water Masters and stuff, which are really pretty short little oars, right? That's almost just a little, you know, a big paddle. But then they also come all the way up to an 8.5 and a 9 footer in a 2-piece. And really the sweet spot is kind of around that 7.5 to 8 foot. 7 to 8 foot is basically kind of where we see the majority of SSTs used. But really, with using the interferal, calculating how much you want to trim off, you basically can keep your oar length exactly the same size, and basically convert over to your grip. So that's actually a really pretty simple way to do that. And I know we've just kind of brainstormed it a little bit, but all the components are there. So knowing that you were doing it with the threaded counterbalance, and we don't really have a lot of people that ask for a counterbalance in an SST. So, knowing that we can just use that interferal piece really makes it, something that should be easy for people to retrofit on. Actually, probably easier than taking out a pair of grips that have been in an oar shaft for many moons.
I think it would be, and I'm really excited to be yet again working with Sawyer on creating this opportunity for people with SST oars. So if you currently own some SST oars and you want to convert over, give me a call, and I can help you walk through the process. We don't have a how-to video of how to do that just yet, although on our YouTube channel, you will see an edit that this gentleman in Ireland made, the whole edit of the whole process, how he did it.
Right, he did the whole how-to video, right? He did the whole thing.
He did.
Perfect little plant.
He did all the work for me, and it's interesting, Zach, because a lot of customers are asking for things that I didn't intend in the beginning, like this particular size grip to fit other oars, but we're figuring out how to do it to keep people happy, because the demand is there.
Right. And let's talk about that a little bit, because what Jeff's talking about is that this fits the 1 5/8" shaft, which is what all of our polecats are, our MXs, or bandits. That's what all of our competitor oars are. But then there is also this whole other set of oar shafts that we provide, and it's something that Sawyer has done for years with outfitters, and it's an outfitter diameter, and so it's actually 1 3/4 inches. And you worked with some folks and figured out how to make that work, and now that's an upgradable part as well. So let's talk a little bit about that, and just kind of some of the parts that had to happen to get that together.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Zach. What drove that particular aspect is the Grand Canyon, and the oars that Zach is talking about are primarily used down there by the outfitters, because the water is so big and the people abuse this stuff. So that extra diameter adds a little bit more strength, so they don't break them.
Yeah, and it's used in those folks, but it's also used so that's where there's a big high volume of our large diameter oars, and that's definitely really more of where you're getting a lot of users to be trying out your stuff. But there are a lot of our outfitters that they've never used small diameter, and so they may only have 15 oars total, but they're all large diameter, and everything they've ever got was large diameter. So actually, I mean, for folks out there, this is some real good information for them if they were looking at your grip, and it's not just available there in the Grand Canyon. Their oars that they normally get in their operation, they could actually put this on their oars as well. So that large diameter is kind of it's an outfitter specific kind of thing, but it is pretty much countrywide.
That's right. I'm glad you pointed that out. Downriver tends to sell a bit, I think, of the large diameter oars. You may not find it in your local shop, but the outfitters all over do have them. So what we've done is we've taken the grip that looks like that, and we've added this internal aluminum sleeve that pushes it out to fit that 1 3/4 ID of the outfitter shaft. So this is available for any guides, any outfitters. My experience so far has primarily been with the Grand Canyon outfitters. And Gilman grips are available down there from your outfitters
What is
on the
the
Grand
what,
Canyon.
Jeff, real quick, how much of a step off is there when you put that aluminum on there? Is it basically kind of leaves a step up to the shaft? Because
Yeah,
the outside diameter is going to be a little bigger, so there's going to be a little bit of a lip there. Yeah, any of the outfitters had to sand down that leading edge at all?
no, I haven't had any issues with that. So originally we designed the grip so that the flange here would be just proud of, like say an MX Oar, so that it would protect the edge of that fiberglass, but it was just a little bit proud. And then when we put the aluminum bushing on here, there's about a 1/16 of an inch step up. So your oar shaft would step up about a 1/16 of an inch. So I think you probably are right, Zach, that people would just put a slight micro bevel with some sandpaper on the edge of that oar shaft.
Yeah, those outfitters down there in the Grand Canyon are fairly crafty. You know, and we've gotten repairs back from them, and it's like a lot of them. They may get the composite with the removable blade, but a lot of them, once they get it, they just permanently mount it and silicone it and completely seal it up. It's like, yeah, the blade can come off, and you know, if they do break a blade, they take it back to the warehouse and pound that thing out and be like, okay, I know I just need a blade, but that thing wasn't going to come off real easy. So I'm sure that they can figure that part out if they need to. But yeah, so I think that's that's definitely a whole another market that may be in the market for your grips. And it does kind of take, let's talk a little bit about kind of who the ideal person is. So obviously, there's kind of you're targeting somebody that is ready to really kind of make that investment and kind of tune their gear in more to them. And but we're actually seeing, we do see those on more of our basic packages, where I think that person there is really looking to just get rid of the oar right, and then really on the upper end, like the bandits, that person I think is really looking for that posi drive, but maybe more of the relaxed grip. We sell to a lot of fishing guides that, they get in their boat and they're rowing for 7-8 hours straight, especially on a day of slow fishing, So, I think that's probably another market. What have you seen as far as, just calls that you've gotten and folks that are inquiring? Is it more of that professional, or is it the serious river user? I know like the folks that go on the Grand Canyon and get their stuff from Pro, can they request the Gilman grip? Is that an upgrade with the Pro package as well, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is an upgrade available from Pro on their painless private trips. A couple of the other outfitters down there also have them available. I think they charge $2 a day, $1 for each grip, so it's pretty inexpensive. Right. Zach, I can row with anything for an afternoon. I can row with a 2x4 and probably not get any blisters. But when you're rowing 200 miles or 280 miles with a heavy load, it really makes a difference what kind of gear you have. So if you're doing a Grand Canyon trip, ask for the Gilman grip upgrade. Let them know ahead of time. They'll come on some large diameter Sawyer shafts, most likely with a Dynalite blade. You'll have a bomber comfortable setup down there. And back to where you started with your question, early on, it was the fishermen that really gravitated towards our grip. I had envisioned the rafters would see this and just eat it up. And that did happen. The class 5 boaters, the cat boaters, the guys running big water, they would see a picture of this and they would call me chomping at the bit wanting some grips. But the everyday oarsmen, they weren't quite as excited at first. But the fishing guides and the fishermen, because they're on their boat 300 plus days a year, they really understand the value of the ergonomics. One of the nice things about our grip is because it only orients in your hand one way. If you drop the oar to help your client get a fish in the boat and you got some fish guts on your hand, you can just grab the oar without looking at it and index it to your hand while you're looking downstream or you're watching that next fish rise, so you can keep your clients happy. But then as it started gaining some traction, the rafters really came on board in a big way. So we're getting calls from all over. We've got grips in Australia. Like I said, we've got them in Ireland. I've got a bunch in Canada, Alaska, all over the US. And the grips are really designed for anybody that wants to be comfortable out there. Like many high performance things, it's going to help the beginner a little more. They're going to see an immediate, huge improvement. If you're an expert already, like I said, you could paddle with a 2x4 and still make it look good and easy. It just wouldn't be comfortable. What our grip will do for the expert paddler or the guide is just minimize fatigue. If you've got hand issues, wrist, elbow, shoulder issues, our grip helps keep you into a neutral body alignment, which is going to make you more comfortable at the end of the day. So that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that probably just kind of lends itself to our partnership, is that if they've made it over to researching the Sawyer product in their oar purchase, they're already looking for that performance level oar. I mean, we all know that there's kind of a price point oar line out there, and maybe people with their first raft package, that's where they end up. But once they've done it for a while, then they're coming to us, they're coming to you, and they're like, hey, I'm going to spend a little bit more on what I have in my hand the whole time, and so that's like one of those things is like, I just spent 20 days on the river last summer, and a couple of them were really long, and I think there's maybe a better tool out there. And yeah, it's very easy to sell the guide on that, because that is that piece of equipment that they're using a lot. But it takes a little bit for that person that's when they're ready for that upgrade. And I think that's where that fits in. And so it may take a little time, and that's why probably we hear from folks like after the fact, where they got the oars themselves already, and now they're like, hey, I've been checking out these Gilman grips, and I rode a pair that my buddy had, and now it's like, how do I do that myself? And so just educating people on how to take our grip out, which is very, very easy to do, but it's not necessarily the simplest thing unless you have the right tools. But we literally go to knocking it out from the inside out with a chunk of steel and just dropping it through the shaft and knocking it out, and it'll knock our handles out pretty easily. And I know you have other oar manufacturers that their grips don't come out as easy, but we do sell to quite a few dealers, and we sell oars gripless. And so basically that allows that oar shaft to be upgraded to, that mainly started because a dealer would want that option of going counterbalance or non-counterbalance. So if you have them gripless, then you're just providing that service and switching, either this is going to be a counterbalance setup or this is going to be a non-counterbalance setup. But your upgrade kind of plays right into that as well. So, I think that's probably a good piece as well. So, and I think that we're seeing them increase through more and more folks, and like we said, we do see them on a wide scope of oars, everything from more of our package Duramax and Polecat package all the way up to the higher end Bandit. So I think that there's definitely a wide range of customer. They just have to be ready to get some of that customization.
They do. They just anybody that wants a little more performance, these grips would be great. And you addressed a good point there, that some things are better felt than described in life. And this grip is kind of one of those things. Some people when they see the grip, Zach, they're a little freaked out because it's so radically different. But the reason it's so radically different is we solve for a bunch of different problems that some people didn't know they had with traditional grips. And once you put your hand around a Gilman grip, it's like having a old pair of boots that are all broken in and fit you just perfect.
Right.
It's so comfortable. But for people who are just getting into the game here and maybe considering the economy oar, I would point out that, you know, if you buy the economy oar and an oar right, you're going to spend almost $50 for a pair of oar rights. Well, if you take that $50 and you upgrade to a pair of Gilman grips, then you don't need the oar rights. So you know, a lot of people that are learning are going to save that purchase at the beginning. They could spend a little extra money and get into a polecat, much better oar than the economy oar, or even an MX. The Bandit, if you row a Bandit with a Gilman grip on it, it is such a delight to row. I had the opportunity to pick up a couple pair that I give to fishermen or people to demo, and I took them down the Grand Canyon last May, and it was such a pleasure to row the Grand Canyon with a fully loaded boat with an oar that weighed next to nothing. I think the whole getup weighed less than 4 pounds. And so you could, you know, you see people with their oars under their knees all the time. You don't have to do that with the Bandit. You could just hold your hands out all day
Feather
long.
light. I mean, that's their selling feature, you know. I mean, that's one of those things. It's like literally people need to go to the store so they can grab onto a Bandit, lift it up, like, oh yeah, this is it. And so on that, you know, one of the things I want to kind of wrap into is, you know, I know that we're in these changing times, but and you're based out of Montana, but are there places do you have plans for some demo locations that we can let people know, or are there places that people can actually get out and demo your oars to try them out?
You know, some shops have demos, most don't. So, you know, talk to your local shop. I've worked with Sawyer to get oars, and I've got oars here in Whitefish, Montana. So if you're up here in Montana,
if you make a trip to Montana after you quarantine for 2 weeks, you can go check it out.
I can hand you the oar and stay 6 feet away, and we can practice social distancing. But I do have oars in Whitefish. So if you're in the area, running any of the rivers around here or coming through, give me a holler. And we'd be happy to set you up with a set to take out for the weekend or a week-long trip. Because as I said, it is one of those things that it's much easier once you've had it in your hand to understand all the things that I talk about to make the grip better and safer.
Yeah.
So we have a question about whether they're going to be available for a retrofit on a square top.
Well, that's a great question, and the answer is yes. That would be my goal. Would be to get these on square tops. They're not probably going to be available as a retrofit, though, in answer to that question. But I am working with Israel and Zach at Sawyer to make it an option that would be available on new square top purchases. So it's not currently available. We've got it. We talk about it a little bit on our new website that we launched today. So check that out at gilmangrips.com. We've got a lot of great info there. But it's probably never going to be a retrofit option for a square top, just to the inherent difficulties of wood oars. But
there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit that has to happen in the factory. But you know, maybe you can use this opportunity if somebody is in Montana. That's where the first tested square top pair will be, because you know, we pretty much have to make the square top and make it retrofitted in the factory to accept the grip. So once it's got the Gilman grip on it, that's it. There's no going back. That's the way the oar is going to be. And so there's definitely some options that we're working on, and really just using the concept of the SST ferrule is the concept that we're going to pursue with that. And then, hopefully it's something that we can just machine out in the finishing. So it would be something where people could order that, and, it may be something that is a week-long process where you could order them and it takes a week of production time to get them completely manufactured over. But yeah, it's not one of those things that is going to be really as simple as just changing out a grip, unless you actually go into a molding where you're actually just getting the grip done,
Yeah.
And I know we've had those discussions for a while, and there's definitely some challenges there, but it does give us something to work on. And, we are definitely entertaining those things as the energy kind of grows around your grip. We're definitely working on making ways that they're applicable to all high-end oars, and the square top question always comes up. So we'll keep kind of working on that one.
It's a great question, because the wood oar guys are almost never going to give up their wood oars. But I would throw down a challenge to those wood oar guys to try the Smoker Bandit, because it's got a flex like wood and weighs next to nothing. It's not wood, and you may or may not like it because of that. But we actually, to prove the concept, Zach, and try and work through some of the problems, we did build some wood oars here in the shop, some square tops to show that we could do it, and to help, in my mind, work through some of the issues and problems we would need to solve to do that. So there's one photo up on my website of some custom square tops that we made here to do it. But that helped me work through the process, and I think in the near future you might see that available from Sawyer. We got to work it out. It's not available now, but we are.
Right.
We've had enough requests that we're working towards that together.
Yeah, we got to leave something for 2021. Might be just the 2020 re-release. Because 2020 hasn't happened, so we'll just rerun for 2020. But yeah, so appreciate it, Jeff. We're going to start wrapping things up here. If you do have questions, fire them in there. We will be monitoring and responding to any questions in the comments of the live feed here. And that does really kind of segue us perfectly into what we have going on this Thursday, because this Thursday we're going to kind of take this to the next step, and we're going to be talking with Trevor over at Rafting Magazine, and we're really going to be talking about really fine-tuning your oar package, and kind of what are the things that you want to do to set up your frames, set up your boat for what you are actually going to do. So, setting up your boat for drift boat fishing versus setting up your boat for a whitewater rafting trip. And so, we'll be mentioning some of the Gilman grip options and kind of discussing that a little bit in that segment as well. But just definitely want to let folks know that please check us out. We are trying to stick to every Tuesday and Thursday on our live feed. This week it happens to work out as Tuesday and Thursday. Sometimes we have to throw Wednesday in there just because of working with people's schedules as well. But appreciate everybody coming on to check us out, and please come back, check out Sawyer Live. And as you're getting through your day out there, getting through your week, be patient, be kind, shop local, support all those local shops out there. Everybody needs a little bit of love, and we hope to see you on the river soon.